Hey everyone, Dan here. We are about a half hour after market close on Friday, June 25th. We're going to do that Friday thing and take a look at AMC today. If you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also feel free to comment below with your thoughts, opinions, ideas, questions. It all helps myself and anyone who watches the video after you. All right, so AMC actually had a pretty boring week this week. It wasn't this up channel that we had identified in last week's video, even though there was this crazy price action outside of it. But for the most part, it had been, acting within this channel. It then fell out. So we will get rid of the channel because now it's broken. And basically just had this really consistent week of consolidation, consolidating around these lows here around 51.74 and around these highs here around 64.73. You can really see it if you zoom into the 5-day, 5-minute chart and you see just this like band of activity that it's, within the whole time. So, kind of an interesting version of things for a stock that has typically been so volatile. So where we stand now, we'll toss some additional things on this chart. So one, we have this like slight uptrend that you can see here. It's forming, and it hasn't reached down to the bottom of it again yet, but it does have its, all in here, and then obviously the initiating points. But that is at some point going to collide with this sort of down-ish trend here that we have from these lower highs right around where the point is actually, and that was actually remarkably solid. How those lined up by just drawing it in the first time. Usually I have to trim those puppies, but this would, even if this maintains, that would be like in another trading week and maybe a day before it popped itself out to the upside there. So I don't know if it will really maintain that level of consolidation for that long. But, it is sort of in this narrowing band of activity over time. And, I think I don't use these very often, but if you look at like the Bollinger bands, and you see them in areas where the price activity goes kind of crazy, super volatile times, the bands stretch. And then as they bunch up together, which right now they're just sort of like 3 in a row, just kind of hanging out here, that's opportunity for that stock to get super volatile in the coming days. It's sort of like building up this potential energy like you have when you're pulling a slingshot back and nothing is really happening because you're just pulling it back and stretching out the bands that are what provide the slingshot to go off. And so if that's kind of what's happening here, it's in an interesting position. And it could be an interesting time in just the next week or so. But even that seems like it's a long time to wait since it's been such a slow crawl this week. But that's what I would look for most of all as we head into next week. We should plot some additional support lines down below here if, maybe you're still looking for like really solid areas to dip buy into. This is actually a really solid zone, not just because it's right there right now, but we don't need that purple. But just because there was previous support here, here, and here, and then back here there was these resistance points and these support points. So as you know, if you've watched my videos before, I'm looking for areas that encompass both support and resistance previously, as those tend to be very, very strong supply and demand zones where price either gets rejected or bought up and supported. So we have support, resistance, and then support, resistance, support. So a very strong area there at 50.88. So I'll leave it there for now. I'll toss some additional charts up on Twitter during the week if we need them. If it does kind of come down to the downside, my Twitter handle's in the description below if you want to keep up with me there. But I would expect before it's falls below that 50.88, I would look for that purple uptrend support to hold it in place and push it out here if it can't do it before then. My hope would be that it can, kind of make that move quicker. And I would tend to think that it would, except for the fact of this. If this stupid area wasn't here, I'd feel much better about it. I actually like most of this area up a little further, just because, these lows here at around 51.88, and then it got pushed down closer to, 51 even. It was a lower low coming in and then having to recover. And so now I don't know, because it's just coming down on its next test of a next low. And I don't know, even though there's a few green candles here, if it's actually going to bounce at this point, or if it's going to do essentially like what it did here, where it had a few green candles, but then it just curled itself back down. Like that could happen again here. Just get a few green candles, then it curls itself back down. So, if that hadn't happened and there was a higher high and then another higher low, I would be feeling much, much better about the possibility of breaking out of this purple flagging area much, much sooner. But, it doesn't really matter what I want it to do. But yeah, that's what I would look for from the charting side of things. On the indicators, I would look for, this is just more confirmation of how much consolidating it's been doing. I mean, if you look from way back here all the way through today, it's just mostly hanging around the baseline. I mean, the most that it had come up here was, 2.8, which like for most stocks would be an incredible run up, but because of AMC being what it is, it's almost like not even a blip on the radar screen. I mean, this is crazy. This MACD getting up over 10 at that point, and that's in the not so distant past. So that's still influencing sort of a lot of the view of these indicators. But MACD just kind of waiting to pick a way to go. And then because I put the Bollingers up there, it got rid of my RSI, which is the other one that I would look at. RSI, really low, so giving a lot of opportunity for buying pressure to come in and at least push it off of this lower uptrend area, so that it doesn't fall through. So that's what I would be looking for. It was actually oversold earlier today. And so, but it didn't really get any bounce. But previously we'll see as it gets down to those zones, it does tend to have a pretty solid run up to overbought or near overbought. So I'd look for that trend to continue. Before we flip over to the short data, a couple other things that I want to mention. One, if you'd like to put down your email for a newsletter that I'm going to be rolling out in the next couple of months. This is not in the immediate future, but a couple of months from now, once I have some emails collected and have an idea of exactly how I want to roll out the newsletters, I'll be putting out trade ideas, thoughts on certain stocks and things like that throughout the week that maybe I have time to put into a newsletter but just don't have a time to make a video for. And it would just be once, maybe twice a week. So nothing that's going to super impinge upon your inbox. But there's a Google form in the description below that you can check that out. And then if you're looking for brokers, I have a couple that I recommend. This charting software that I'm using right here is Webull. Webull is a free broker. If you don't use them, they have tons of different great charting opportunities. They have paper trading, options, all that jazz. The description below has a link if you want to join, and then also Gatsby, which you may not know of, but I think they're only on mobile, but super modern, super user-friendly, really quick execution times, very quick to just navigate, not a charting software, but just to go on, get your trade done, and watch it grow kind of thing. Look for that link in the description below as well, but I would strongly recommend them. Both are free. All right, so the short data, if we can flip over here, the short volume ratio day to day staying in the 20s, actually upticking yesterday into the mid 20s, which we know is really high, especially in a stock that has 80% or more of the float owned by retail. It's almost like, how is that getting done? Well, we'll see. When this fails to deliver are potentially a way that gets done. I'm looking for these to get updated because this is just from the second half of May. Obviously, we are past the first half of June. We're almost out of the second half of June. So the data, unfortunately, is just on such a lag. But that is typically a pretty good indicator of if and how much naked shorting could be going on in the marketplace with these stocks that can just sort of like really skew the perception of how much supply or availability there is out there. This also equally kind of out of date. It's from 528 data, but just showing that, I just wanted to point out, just to remind everyone in case this wasn't obvious, especially because of the big spike in AMC's price. As of 528, there was $2.67 billion of volume being sold short in AMC. So for anyone, if you're watching this video, you probably don't doubt the extent to which the short sellers are in really prickly predicaments in this one. But just to kind of, put another point on that, 2.67 billion just in AMC alone. We look at Ortex from today, today's changes, slight increase in the short interest for AMC. Current short interest percentage of the free float, 18.66%. Again, if retail owns 80% of the float, then and everyone is holding, which I'm sure not everyone of that 80% is. Sorry, but if they are, then that basically means that every other share is being sold short. So yeah, and that's sort of backed up by the utilization, currently over 90%. And if you're not familiar with utilization, obviously 91%, close to 100. So 100% means that all the shares available to borrow or lend at a lending program have in fact been lent. So there's that, where there's not much availability out there. Retail owns the vast majority of what's available. And again, talking about sort of the incentives or the reasons that would come together that would drive bad actors to engage in naked short selling, and even then so to an extreme degree, to me, the chess pieces are in place for that sort of thing to be happening. So we'll keeping an eye out for that, and sort of draw attention to it as we can, looking for that outstanding fails to deliver data to come through from the first half of June to give us sort of like a 30-day window of what we might look for in the coming days or weeks ahead with potential spikes if folks do have to deliver on those failures. All right, well, I hope you all had a good trading week and that you enjoy the weekend. And no matter what you're trading, I wish you the best. I will see you in the next video.